You are live. Hi guys, it's FD for Sage5.tv. If you just joining me for the first time, thank you very much. I appreciate your help. Just don't forget to click like and subscribe and then hit that notification bell. I do appreciate that a lot. I'm going to follow the same theme as in my previous videos. My job and my role, I'm trying to bring some education of a different kind. I'm trying to avoid talking about Bitcoin morning to the moon and so forth. We've got to bring some credibility to this space, okay? Why am I saying that? Because some of the things that we see on YouTube, yeah, it leaves a lot to be desired. Anyway, let's get started. So following on from my previous videos, one of the things I've always wanted was to actually start creating and sharing with you guys and enriching the space. And as I followed my last video, I'm in the process of creating an investment toolkit that will hopefully help you with your education journey. Okay? After all, we're here to learn, and I'm going to try my best to make sure you guys keep learning. I'm learning as well as trying to share what I'm learning with you guys. As for me, if you come across something you don't agree with, something you disagree with, please share with me via the comment section. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button and smash the notification bell, just in case you don't want to miss any of this good content that I'm creating and bringing to you guys. Okay? So like I said, following on to my last video that was talking about this safer project that you might want to invest in, I've come up with a toolkit that I think will be helpful for someone who's just entering the space. And I hope you are going to learn as much as I'm learning, because I'm enjoying just creating the toolkit itself. I'm learning quite a lot. And whilst I'm learning, I'm also realizing there's a lot more to learn. So over time, we'll be incrementally increasing and beefing up the content that we're creating now. There will come a time when we have to revisit and revise and beef it up. Okay, so what is this toolkit I'm trying to develop and share with you guys? So in crypto, it's all about risk, okay? Even Bitcoin can go to zero. Every digital asset within the space can go to zero. So what I'm trying to do is come up with a way that is very basic, and it's starting at a very basic level that anyone coming into the space can use to carry out risk management, to evaluate the risk of the project they're investing in. And that spreadsheet, if you don't have access to Microsoft Excel, you can always use pen and paper, draw your boxes and enter digits and values in them, okay? It's straightforward, okay? So first and foremost, before I go to the actual tool, I have to define what my metrics are, okay? Metrics are the things that I'm going to look at, consider, and then score for me to come up with a result, desirable result or undesirable result. That's what it's all about, okay? If I come across a project that I'm interested in investing in, and then I realize that the toolkit is giving me a result that is undesirable, what do? I stay away from it. If we then proceed against what those results are, now that is on you, okay? But with education, if you want to educate yourself effectively, you got to be disciplined, okay? That's part of the journey. You got to be disciplined, okay? So let's get started. One of the things I look at when I'm looking at a project is I look at whether the project itself is decentralized. If you invest in a project that is centralized, you might as well stay with fiat currency or alternative, financial system that we're all trying to move away from. Okay, that's why you need decentralization. Now, the subject itself of decentralization is quite broad. Okay, and there are always debates and arguments that are being thrown about with regards to what is proper decentralization and which blockchain is more decentralized. That topic is not the subject of this session today. we'll leave it for another day. Okay? But what I tend to look at when I'm looking at whether the project itself is decentralized is I look at the number of nodes that are used to secure that blockchain. Okay? Are the nodes elected or nominated by the project owners or the company that is developing that project? Okay? Or is it controlled? The nodes, are they run or controlled by the community? Okay? So the way I would apply my risk tool from the toolkit will be as follows. Okay? If a project is not fully decentralized, okay, and say it's got less than it's got say less than 100 nodes, that is a red flag. Okay, less than 100 nodes, that's a red flag. Okay, you might as well stay away from it. Okay, as far as I'm concerned, I will apply on my scale, I will apply 0. Okay, the scale I'm applying, it's a 1 to 10, 1 being the minimum, 10 being the maximum you can rate a project. Okay, but the elements that I'm rating a project on, in total there are 13. The first one is decentralization. The project decentralized enough. Okay. The second one is security. With regards to security, okay, I'm looking, is it audited by a credible, auditing company? Okay, there are so many cases of companies sticking certificates on their websites or alongside their white papers. The project themselves have never been rigorously audited or thoroughly audited. Okay, that is something I look for. Okay, the next element I look for is scaling. Okay, during the times of high traffic, heavy traffic, can the project withstand the traffic, the high volumes without crashing? That is a very key factor. Okay, if a project crashes each time there's heavy traffic, that's a question mark. You've got to consider that. Unless I see a very attractive opportunity that I can go in and out quite quickly. The next one I look for is whether the blockchain itself is interoperable. Okay, can it communicate with other blockchains? Because the way things are going right now, it is inevitable that blockchains will need and will have to work with each other. Okay, I think projects or blockchains will be forced, when mass adoption comes, they'll be forced to work together. Otherwise, those who cannot work across their own boundaries, they will be left behind, and that might be their death knell. Okay, that is at the moment, that is becoming very clear. This is where we're heading to. Okay, the next thing I look for is the project team. Okay, are they anonymous or are they in public? If a project has got an anonymous team, as someone who is coming into this space, if you are new, for starters, try and avoid those, because there is always a built-in risk. Granted, some of the projects are quite decent. The project owners might just choose not to, to appear in public for various reasons. Okay, that I accept, but to protect myself as someone who's coming into the space new and it's my first time, I would rather avoid projects with anonymous teams, regardless of whether they're a great project or they're great individuals. That's not the point. The point is you're trying to mitigate the risk of you losing your funds when you invest in some of these projects. Okay. The next thing I look for is a project's social media presence. Okay. Are they on Twitter? How many followers do they have? Okay, that alone is not a qualification, because from time to time we get people buying followers and so forth. It happens. Okay, in the world we live in now, people can also buy bots or robots online, and they can do all sorts of things. They can become subscribers. They can be programmed with certain messages if certain triggers are, are made and so forth. So that's something to be careful about, okay? But all you're doing is just scoring, okay? It's the final result you're looking for. When you're doing the scoring here, don't worry too much about whether you're doing the right thing or not, okay? You can worry about that when you're evaluating the results and working backwards to see if you need to change any of your scoring, okay? The next thing I look for is if they have a Discord community. Again, that space is also full of bots. People do all sorts of things. You may find a vibrant Discord community, but there might be a few human beings and the rest are robots, okay? So be careful, but it's something I consider as well, and I want it to be ranked within this risk evaluation tool, okay? The next thing I go for is the age of the project. How old is this project, okay? If it's been around for, say, since 2016 or 2015, and the price has been stagnant or just going flat, okay, that one is obvious. You don't have to worry about that. You just discount it, okay? So it's not all about how old is the project. It's also about, has there been any development happening with this project? Has it got anywhere since it was created and launched, okay? But the age of the project I'm talking about here is, you may come across a project that has been launched today, okay? And that project might have anonymous teams, okay? So you need to look at the age within that context. If it's an anonymous team and the project has just been launched today or last week and so forth, you may want to stay away from that, okay? Personally, I would not want to invest in such product because there is the risk of rug pulls, okay? No matter how attractive the prices are, the risk of rug pulls is prevalent, okay? Don't discount that, okay? And you better have a plan before you actually get there. So this risk evaluation toolkit that I'm presenting today, it's part of your preparation, okay? Before you jump in, these are your tools. When you are, being driven by emotions, revert to your tools to see if they can save the day, because you can lose it all, believe me, okay? I think I've mentioned in one of my previous videos that you can invest at 8 a.m. and at 6 p.m. you're probably close to zero than the millions you were promised, okay? The next thing I look for are use cases, okay? These are very important, okay? Use cases, there are use cases that are linked to, real world problems. If you walk out there, out of this room or off the internet, you walk into the real world, you'll see there are a lot of issues that people are trying to address, like, banking and unbanked. That's a real world, problem with a real world solution. Economic identity, that's a real world problem with a real world solution that the blockchain is trying to resolve, okay? That is what I'm talking about, real estate and trading and doing options, via the blockchain. Those are real world problems and real world solutions, okay? If you have a project that is based on Hyperloan and there are no real world solution problems that the project is trying to address, you might as well try and stay away from it, especially if you're just getting started. Why do I say that? Because speculation can destroy you, okay? The next thing I look for is something to do with tokenomics, okay? I focus on token allocation, okay? How have the token been allocated, and who's got what percentage, and what is the vesting schedule, which is, if someone has been allocated tokens, when are those tokens supposed to be sold on the open market, okay? That is very important, okay? So I look at tokens that were issued at a token generation event. This is when the project was launched, how many tokens were released, okay? Then I also look at tokens in circulation or coins in circulation, okay? Rule of thumb, but there are so many nuances around this rule of thumb, okay? Rule of thumb is, the more tokens in circulation, the better, okay? If you're joining a project today and there are more tokens in circulation than what's left, that is a positive thing. It means no one will kind of dilute the value of the project by dumping more coins, because there is very little to cause such an impact that you might end up losing out, okay? But again, you got to consider that within the context of the other elements you've looked at, okay, and the rest of the elements as well. Okay, the next one I look for is tokens, the maximum tokens, available. So we know the big daddy of the space, Bitcoin, has got 21 million, but we also know that a few millions have been lost, where people have died and no one has got access to their keys, or people lost their keys and so forth. So, but all I can say is with 21 million fixed total amount, maximum amount, that is a reasonable figure compared to some of the figures being thrown about now. 20 billion, 50 billion, 100 billion, 100 trillion, 1 quadrillion, and so forth. It's getting silly, okay? So when you are coming into the space, you need to consider how many tokens as a maximum are set by the project, okay? And the scale that I'm trying to introduce here will actually provide some guidelines. They are not set in stone, they're just guidelines. This is how I would, focus on maximum token allocation and so forth, okay? But that's something very important to consider, okay? And then from there you got levels of risk, okay? Within the levels of risk, I've just created my own, okay? So for example, I've got a section from 0 to 64 out of 130, targets. I've got I called it no go and I put it in red. And I've got another one, 65 to 89 out of 130. I called it could go to 0. Okay, that's my own classification, but the colors are the ones that are important, as you will find out when I proceed to the next phase where I want to do a deep dive into the actual elements that I've listed. So now that I've listed the 13 elements that you consider when you're using this risk evaluation tool, okay, certain things are probably starting to make sense now. At the beginning, I said I'm using a scale between 1 to 10, 1 being the minimum score you can allocate again or rate a project against, 10 being the maximum, okay? Now you've got 13 elements that you're trying to use within the risk evaluation tool. If you multiply 10 by 13, you get your 130. That's how I got my total. So for example, I said the maximum I can give a project is, where I say, okay, this is, go for it. For example, it's a no-brainer. This project is a no-brainer. Consider, okay? I'm not going to give you financial advice, okay? Guys, anything I'm saying right now is not financial advice. It's just my opinion, okay? This content I'm giving you today or sharing with you today is for educational purposes only. It's not financial advice. If you require a financial advisor, please go Google or go find out from other sources. They might be able to point you in the right direction. Don't listen to a dude on the internet who's got a full-time job elsewhere, okay? Anyway, so coming back to the scores, things are starting to make sense now, okay? I've got 13 elements and I've got my scale of 1 to 10. 1 being the minimum, 10 being the maximum. If you multiply 13 by 10, you get 130. That is my total for the risk evaluation toolkit, okay? And it's got 4 categories. It's got red, it's got beige, it's got lime, and it's got green, okay? Red being the highest risk, it's a no-go, okay? So consider not investing in that. Bear in mind, I'm not telling you not to, I'm saying consider not to invest in that because it's my own opinion, it's not financial advice, okay? The next one is between 0 and 89 out of 130. This could go up to 0 because there's still inherent risk with that, okay? So proceed with caution, okay? Be careful, okay? Then I've got projects with potential that I colored in lime, that's the risk level, and it will be between 90 and 109 scores out of 130, okay? For those projects, there's still risk involved, don't just FOMO in. This is where if you have learned something about entry levels and you understand technical analysis, you may want to import your technical analysis to work within the line category. There are still risks, and most of those will be based on what are your entry levels. Did you FOMO in at the peak? Are you getting in after a drawback? when there's been a scale back from the increase, because these things happen, okay? A project or token or coin or appreciating value, it will shoot up and then it's going to retrace, gain some momentum, and then it shoots up again. So you can bring techno analysis into entry points, okay? Long term, it doesn't matter, of course, but I don't want to discount techno analysis, because I think it helps when you're trying to identify entry points. And then the maximum or the highest level that is relatively safe is the one I'm calling go for it, which is green, okay? That one, the scores are between 110 and 130 out of 130, okay? If you evaluate a project for risk and you are within that category and your scores are between 110 and 130 out of 130, it means it's relatively safe. As a newbie, you can actually enter with some comfort knowing you've done some basic, this is not advanced, some basic research into the project, okay? If you wish, you can then, on balance, compare it to the other, content you, consuming from other, YouTube influencers, Twitter influencers, and other sources, okay? So that's it, guys. Thank you very much for joining me today. And the next video will be focusing on the actual tool itself. What are we looking at and what are we talking about and what is it, okay? Within this video, I'll list the 13 elements that I just discussed, okay? In the next video, I will then share some screens of the spreadsheet tool that I'm using and do some working examples based on what we, the coins we covered in the previous videos. I think we covered tokens or projects that were within the top 20 or top 15. Okay, we selected between 6 and 8. So those are the ones I will do my, my examples on. I'll share my examples on those, based on those projects. Okay, so thank you very much, and make sure you click the like and subscribe button before you leave, and as well as hitting that notification bell. And please, before you make any decisions, do your own research. Okay, all I'm trying to do here is enhance your learning and enhance your knowledge. Thank you for now. Bye.